We have two operating mines in BC, the Mount Poly mine, which we own 100% of, and the Huckleberry mine we own just under 50%. We have a gold mine in Nevada called the Sterling Gold Mine. That's a small operation. It's kind of out of our MO, but our CEO has a vested interest in that one since he started there when he was just out of engineering school. So that's why we're down there. So I'm mainly here to talk about Red Chris because it's a project we have underway up in just south of Dease Lake. And Red Chris project, we basically took it over in 2007. It had its EA assessment completed in 2005 and 2006 from the province and the feds. We started construction in May of last year. And the capital cost of the project is about $500 million. We're holding steady on that so far. We're being tasked with keeping it at just under 5, or at least I am. In conjunction with the Red Chris mine is BC Hydro building the Northwest Transmission Line, the NTL line. So that's key to our project. We've set our schedule up to match the NTL line. So they phone us probably on a weekly basis to say, hey, you still on schedule? So it's going to be a tight one. So we'll see how that goes. Our mine startup is scheduled for May of 2014, and we won't be producing any concentrate at that time, but we will be able to power up our big mills and start commissioning. It's a conventional, basically open pit truck and shovel operation. It's about 30,000 tons a day operation. Again, the capital cost $500 million. Our concentrate is 27% copper and about 12 grams per ton average of gold. And that's, we all know where the price of gold is. It's a conventional tailings management system. And the concentrate is being shipped out of the port of Stewart. So it's about 320 kilometers from our site, so very close. We have a nice highway network down Highway 37. The site's about 17 kilometers from the highway, so very nice infrastructure in place. There is no rail there, however, yet, but I think there's talk of it. Annual production for copper is about 87 million pounds. And gold production will be about 52,000 ounces. That's basically an overview of the site. I can go in detail, but basically we have an open pit. It's a small pit actually, but it'll go down about 300 meters. Goes to primary crusher and a 3-kilometer overland conveyor to our plant. And the tailings impoundment area is about 500 meters lower, and we get our reclaimed water that recirculates back into the plant from there. So lots of pipeline work. In conjunction with that, as I said earlier, the Northwest Transmission Line has already commenced. It's going from Terrace to Bobquin, 380 odd kilometers, I believe. Imperial Metals is actually building the remainder of the line, so we're taking it from Bobquin to Tatoga. It's about 95 kilometers. And then another 20 kilometers up to our site. So we're now in the transmission business as well. This is just some stats that we threw in here. We're the 12th largest undeveloped copper project worldwide and the 7th gold. So that's here in our province. Here's just some photos. Everybody likes to see construction photos. That was back in October of 2012. We started the concrete work. We stopped in about mid-November. It was getting a little too cold. We didn't have to meet schedule again as we're waiting for the hydro line. So we recommenced in March of this year. So we've got about 10,000 cubic meters poured already. To put that in perspective, that's a lot of concrete. So we have a 480-person camp on site. Our peak will be this summer. We're seeing probably July, August, September will be our peak months on site. Again, some fancy pictures of our site geologists. That's our tailings area. It's been cleared and we're already building the tailings dam, so we're well ahead of schedule there. And this is actually done by our own forces. We have a lot of equipment on site, and we're hiring locals if we can. We're working with the Tahltan Nation, and we currently have about 20 to 25% Tahltan on site, which is very good. Everybody likes to see trucks and shovels. That's from our Mount Poly mine, actually, so we're not mining there yet at Red Chris. These are up at Red Chris, so we've got large equipment on site, as you can see. We're producing our own aggregate on site. All of our concrete aggregate came from site, and backfill material, we can't produce enough of it, it seems like. Red Chris at its peak will create about 500 jobs. 250 full-time jobs once we're in operation. The mine life is currently targeted at 28 years. 50 to 60 indirect full-time contractors for operations once it does become operational. Spin-off jobs in BC multipliers for about 2 to 1 to 3 to 1. And Price Waterhouse did a survey, and average mining jobs worth $115,000 a year. So that's pretty significant. Fully loaded payroll once we're operational is about $28 million a year. Estimated personal income tax. These are all project benefits to the region, basically. Mineral tax, federal provincial income tax, about $20 million a year. And of course now we have PST back, so that hurt us. It hurt most of us, I think. And then property tax, about $370,000 annually. On this project specifically, we have 3 supply chain teams. We've contacted the services of AMEC Engineering, and they're looking after the engineering and procurement on behalf of us on this project. The Red Chris head office that's headed by myself look after all the contracting and the mining equipment, all the big stuff that's not involved in the plant. And we have about 4 buyers on site that look after basically construction activities. The process for price inquiries are primarily by request for quotation. We have no formal process for approving suppliers. It's more of a relationship is how we work. And a lot of it is, for instance, on equipment. Usually in a plant environment, it's brand specific. So for instance, the large mills are a certain brand. So we typically know what brands we're going after. But for other suppliers, other vendors that have similar products, what we like to look at is track record, of course. Mining industry is very small, so there's our mining community does talk a lot. So if there's products that work at one site, we hear about it and they hear about it, and there's lots of conferences that we all go to and talk about what works, what doesn't work. Sales and technical support, that's probably the biggest. If we get a product, and for some reason mines are always in a very remote area. They're never in a nice, close city. So if we can't get support on products, it's kind of useless to us. So that's one of the biggest things we look for. Are you there? Do you have technical support? Do you have spare parts? So that's a big one for us. On this project specifically, the bid evaluations are done by AMEC for the plant equipment. So they basically put together the technical and commercial recommendations. They send it over to us. We review it. And basically what we're looking for is compliance with specs, of course, manufacturing schedules, product support again, that's a big one. And then you'll see that price is quite a ways down there. It's not always price that we look at. It's what's going to work for us, what's going to be painless, I guess is the best way to put it. On the contracting side, it's the same thing. It's either request for quotations or request for proposals. We do assemble bid lists between myself and my team, and we work with the construction management team on site, and we have a lot of experience with those teams. So we basically, if we put a contractor on a bid list, we have no hesitation in awarding that contract to that contractor. We don't evaluate them after the fact. So again, we don't have a formal screening process, but what we like to do is, again, it comes down to if we've had some earlier knowledge with a contractor, we've worked with them before, or if they're new to us, what are the capabilities? Are you able to handle these projects? A lot of these projects are, large, substantial dollar projects. So you have to have the cash flow in order to sort of support a project of this size. So that's really important to us, of course. And if you've done similar work at other mines or other heavy industry job sites, that's very important. If you self-perform the work, or do you subcontract most of the work? And I've seen a lot of contractors come in and basically what they do is manage the project and they sub everything out. So that's a key thing we look at. Of course, management team and your location of the region, whether it's local, whether it's regional, whether your workforce is coming from overseas or not. At Red Chris, we currently have a few packages that we will be tendering shortly. Mechanical, structural, and piping of the main plant. That's basically putting the whole structure together. So it's erecting all the steel, all the piping that goes in and connects to all the mills. We're self-installing our mills. When I say mills, it's the big, large pieces that crush all the rock. So those are somewhat specialized, and we're basically pulling teams out of our other mines, and they'll be installing that, but we have to connect everything to it. So we'll also have a plant electrical and instrumentation contract. These contracts will be coming out sometime this summer. Tailings and reclaim pipeline, there's about 30 kilometers of pipeline that needs to be installed from the plant site down to the tailings dam, and that one will be out shortly. That'll be probably next year sometime when that goes in. And we have a bridge upgrade to do on Highway 37, and it's part of our fish compensation plan, and we're putting some fish-bearing culverts in as well. From the operations side, most of the capital equipment has been procured for this project. If you can appreciate, some of the large mill equipment is about an 18 to 2-year lead time. So a lot of that has been ordered about 2 years ago. So, and most of it's being stored either on site or in various warehouses throughout BC here right now. So on the operating side, it's a whole gamut of opportunities. Of course, explosives is one of the big ones for us. Tire supply, fuel, lubricants. We have a camp on site, so camp and catering, food and commissary, radio communications, equipment, parts, and services. We really need it all, basically, once we get started. And that's all I have. Thank you.